I'm hearing you. There's been quite a few requests for life update podcast from me. Oh, I haven't done one of these in about a year. I mean, I think I posted the relationship podcast, right? My relationship had just ended, and then it got back together, and then it ended, and then it got back together again, and then it ended. And I think that was the last life update podcast that I did. And I've I think I started doing more interview style podcasts that you guys have been listening to, and they're so great. They're so informational. And it's interesting. Someone had asked, they're like, why did you stop doing life update podcasts? And as I'm sitting here right now, I'm like, gosh, what is the answer to that question? Maybe the answer to the question is I stopped doing life update podcasts because I've been in a phase of my life that has felt very um, busy and chaotic, and maybe even in some ways very rooted, but in other ways very chaotic, like very uncertain. And I think when our lives are feeling messy, it's a little bit easier to just put the focus or the spotlight on something else. And I don't want this to sound like, I mean, it can sound however it's going to sound, but I don't want it to sound like I've been a mess, because it's been, I guess we all are in some ways. Um, but I think life has just been lifing, you know? I believe the last update podcast I did, like real, and when I say update, like I'm sitting in my car right now without a camera, just recording on my old, trusted recorder that I got from Dave, what he used to record his podcasts on. Um, which, the interview podcasts you've been watching have more cameras and lights and a professional recorder. I actually went to try and use it on my own yesterday. I had someone set it up. I was going to go record this podcast right here in front of a camera. And I couldn't get the damn thing to work. I couldn't figure it out. I feel a little bit like, yeah, I think I've had so many teams of people for so long doing so much that now it's like me trying to operate what they put together. There's just so much user error. So I guess this is another reminder to just go back to simplicity. Also, I love not having a camera on my face. It's kind of like the difference between sending a voice note or talking on the phone and FaceTiming or Marco Poloing. I am not a Marco Polo or a FaceTime fan at all. I just feel like it's more to think about and look at, and it's like really real. And plus, I'm looking at myself, which is just so weird. Um, I love voice notes. I love phone conversations. I actually really love getting in a car like this, sitting in the car, my foot up on the steering wheel. I got a sock on, just chilling. I feel like I'm just having a conversation with you. So I'm really grateful I couldn't get the equipment to work. Yesterday was like a tech nightmare. I couldn't get the equipment to work. I was freaking out. I'm usually pretty calm when things don't work. Something about yesterday, I was just having this freak out moment. Like, it's like, they say disappointment is the result of unmet expectations. And I had my day lined out. I've had so many busy days in a row. I've had infinite busy days in a row is how I feel. Infinite. Way too much to do for one person. And I feel like I'm just constantly running, and my to-do list is so big. So when I set a day and I'm like, I've got to get my podcast recorded here, because I do have timelines, right? If I want to stick to this every other week thing, and I'm committed to it, I'm sticking to every other week, even when things are busy, it means I got to record, even if I'm feeling overwhelmed. So I had this time slot set to record, couldn't get it to work, blew past my time slot. And I'm like, okay, I have another one I could do in the car. I'll go grab my podcast equipment, went and picked it up, did my appointment, got in the car to record, opened up the box, and the dang cords are missing. I don't know where the cords are. I don't know where the cords are. So I had to go borrow cords from someone. I realized I didn't have an SD card in. I had to go buy one at Best Buy and bought extra batteries just in case. And it just yesterday blew by. I was like in the zone, ready to record yesterday. And it got to a certain point where I'm like, "My brain's dead. My brain is dead. It's gonna have to wait until tomorrow morning." So here I am, got my workout in. I, pull down the street in, like, this little cul-de-sac, and I'm just chilling here, and we're about to have a conversation about an update in my life. Now, there are a few things that I would love to update you on. I don't think all of it's gonna fit into one episode. Like, I really, really you guys, I cannot speak highly enough. I'm so excited about the retreat we ran a few weeks ago, the healing retreat with 10 women. Oh my gosh. So I kinda like, I wanna fill you in on that. I've had a ton of questions around it, a lot of excitement, so much life change. I also know that many of you guys have asked about my health journey. So, health is something that I'd love to go into and update you on just what's working, what's changed, what's shifted, because I'm in a completely different place than when you heard me crying about my health maybe a year and a half ago, a year ago, whenever those episodes came out. So definitely in a better place. Would love to dive into that. And then also, I know that there's just a lot of really cool, exciting family stuff happening for me. Last year, this time, I had Maddox, my first son, my first child, leaving the nest, going on his mission, his Mormon mission. And I'm here again. Maddox has been gone for a year and I have another one leaving the nest. So it's just like, when I explained the chaos of life, it's been so much beautiful chaos of life. And also it's a lot. Um, just shifting. I guess for the last couple of years, it's been this downshift. I've talked to you guys about it being kind of like a dark winter that honestly I felt was never going to end. I never felt like I was going to come out of it. Just like grief and suppressing my grief. I very quickly after Dave um, jumped into a relationship after Dave passed very quickly. And being inside of a new relationship, I haven't talked about this yet. I wasn't even planning on updating you on this, but it's here. So we're going to go with it. We're going to pull on this thread. Being in a relationship with someone who was the exact opposite of Dave. Am I going here? I'm going here. I am. Literally. And I think that's what happens when we have a relationship. At least this is what I'm noticing with me. When we have a relationship that doesn't work for one reason or another, and there was so much pain associated with the ending of my relationship with Dave, and mostly because he's not here. There was so much pain in that, and just pain with the way that it ended, and confusion, and sadness, and hurt for him, and so many people, and just a thing that I was like, okay, I can't do if that kind of love, that kind of chemistry, and that kind of like connection equals tragedy. I'm avoiding that at all costs. I don't want to feel that again. I don't want to feel the pain, like the depth of connection and the having someone see me the way that he saw me, and the kind of sparks and laughter and joy and chemistry and pain. There was pain because there was a lot of hurt in the middle of the relationship too, obviously. Just that, both of us were going through, but I think I was kind of in a self-exploration phase of my life, and Dave was in a healing phase of his life. And my thought was, I don't want anything like that. I want to be as far away from feeling the pain of losing something so great, something that felt so good. The first man to ever see me in my life, like ever truly see me, and like celebrate me. And if excitement equals tragedy, I don't want excitement again. And, I went into a relationship with someone who was the exact opposite. And in so many great ways, and also some really painful ways, to be honest, TBH. And there was just more stability in ways that I didn't have before, maybe more stability in ways that I'd never had in my life, and then more instability in ways that I had never experienced. And really, I mean, I've talked about this before, but every relationship is truly a teacher. It's a mirror, right? Like, and that relationship that is over now, um, it came into my life to hold up a mirror to what I still had left to heal. And it was stuff that I've been running away from my entire adulthood. And it was just like, it was the most intense mirror with like sun reflecting in my eyes for so much of it. Also layered with so many wonderful things that, and to be clear, I'm not pointing a finger at anyone. I think we always should be. The mirror means I'm looking at myself, and it was interesting. I think though, what I guess I was getting at is jumping into that relationship where I was faced with my own shit that I never wanted to look at. I really didn't. And I thought I had like passed. Nope, it's still there. And it really suppressed for various reasons out of respect for him, which I don't know that I was completely good at, you know, but it suppressed and I kind of avoided feeling the pain of grief from Dave. So, yeah, I'm kind of in this phase now where I am giving myself space to breathe. I'm giving myself space to breathe. The dark night I feel is over. It is over. I feel like I am back in like ways that I don't even want to say back. I feel like I'm alive and I'm awake and I'm aware in ways I never had been before. But it took going through so much pain, you guys, so much pain and so much patience with myself. Like I was so mean to myself in my head, so mean. And I didn't think I was because I'm really nice for the most part. But I was mean, like in hindsight, I was mean to myself because there was so much judgment for how I was handling it. Judgment that I was feeling grief for Dave while I was in a relationship. Judgment that I would say his name and hurt feelings, and judgment for myself that I didn't feel comfortable in a relationship and I was leaving it. And here, am I running away again? Judgment because why can't I have that motivation that I had before? Like judgment that I wasn't operating at the same capacity that I'd operated at before. And, truth be told, I just needed to rest. I needed to kind of be with myself. I needed to feel a lot of the pain and allow myself to feel pain and not judge myself for feeling pain. And ultimately get to a place where I was willing to walk away from many things and many people in my life who were no longer a fit. And I don't want to say, the saying they always say is we walk away from people who aren't, just walk away from people in relationships that aren't serving you. I don't know why that feels very selfish to say serving, but like it just wasn't a good fit. Things weren't a good energetic fit. So I feel like this last year for me, since my last podcast, whatever update I gave, so my greatest lesson has been learning to feel what is a yes and learning to feel what is a no. Right? That's step one. But then the other step, because I have really been good at feeling yeses and feeling nos, but I have really been struggling with and practicing acting on my yeses and acting on my nos, which is very difficult because saying no to somebody who you truly have love for, whether it's in a relationship or a friendship or a business partnership, when I know in my gut and my nervous system is like, hell no. Trying to give that to somebody or communicate it with someone, and then seeing pain or hurt or frustration or lack of understanding in their eyes quickly, then that would activate a part of me that would be like, oh my gosh, I can't, child Heidi, I can't hurt someone. Like I need to make them happy. Okay, so let me go back and let me totally, completely self-betray and let me say yes and say what this person wants to hear when I'm actually a hell no. And so I have found myself, I've been aware of it. And, this pattern, this has been a pattern in my life, my whole life. But I didn't even know how to recognize a yes or a no. And so over this last year, really being able to sit with myself and be like, oh, this is a hell no. And then to recognize when I am talking to someone and sit kindly tippy-toeing around, which I'm learning not to do because that's sometimes worse, a no, and seeing the hurt or feeling the hurt and then jumping in and being like, oh my gosh, this person's, they're such a good person. I can see their intentions. And then they say, is this what you really want? And in that moment, I would see my self-betrayal when I would say, you're right. No, no, no. I want what you want. You're right. You're right. And I would just betray over and over, and I could see it. And really, what is that? I had a life coach that was like, okay, you're a liar. I'm like, I'm not a liar. I don't lie to people. And she's like, no, you're a liar. You know your truth. And when you're faced with sharing your truth, you lie to the person in front of you to make them feel good. You self-betray to make them feel good. You're lying. You are a liar. And she was so right. But it's so damn hard to say your truth or to not try and find reasons why to support your truth. It's so damn hard to stand inside of your truth. And I'm saying you, I mean me. It's so damn hard sometimes to stand inside of my truth. And here's what I've recognized too. Oh my gosh, this has been just such a big lesson. The more I stand inside of my truth, the more I have the ability to recognize a hell yes from a hell no. And the more I follow my intuition, the more I heal myself, the more I try to be someone that I'm proud of instead of someone that everyone else is proud of, the more resistance I am met with in not every area, in areas of my life that quote unquote don't serve me, but I'm still trying. So like, for example, I've had people recently who have no idea what my life is like. No, I mean, I've always had people on the internet who have no idea what my life is really like. You know, they're like not even fans. They're like haters in the stands they're so good at being like, oh my gosh, Heidi's doing this and should be doing this, whatever. That doesn't matter because they're all, I don't know. I could say some things right now, but there, no one ahead of me, truly. Anyone listening to this, if you're one of them, there's no way you're happy in your life, or you wouldn't be sitting there online trying to dig up every detail of my life to harp on. Happy people, successful people, people who know their own value don't have time for that shit. They just don't. And so I actually have a heart for you if you're listening. And I know it actually makes me sad. So I'm not talking about those people, but there are people, you know, in my life who knew a version of me that was a doormat or a people pleaser or someone who would just cave to whatever, that maybe sees like someone who's digging in and doing the work and looking at themselves. And I think it's scary. And I think it's threatening to other people. And what I witness is that the more I learn who I am, the more people who knew the older, unhealed version of me freak out. And they don't like it. And they don't like me. Like there are quite a few people in my life who love me, but don't like me. And I get it. Like, I think we get used to, and I would see that a lot in transformation. When Chris and I were doing the show, it was like one partner would begin to transform their lives. They would like start doing the work and following through with their commitments and seeing their power. And the husband or the wife that was used to being with this person who was, 400 pounds of broken promises. So let's say the husband had a wife who was 400 pounds of broken promises, 400 pounds of shame. Yeah, it looked like calories in. It looked like a calorie surplus. It looked like excess body weight. But their partner, their spouse, their husband was used to that version of them. So when this woman began to heal who she was and recognize that the reason that she ate food or numbed with food had everything to do with the trauma she was holding on to and the shame and the guilt that she felt for something that she wasn't even responsible for. And as she started to allow that weight to go And she started to take those baby steps and make these mini promises and follow through with them, right? And these power promises fulfilled after power promise fulfilled resulted in something called integrity. And when that integrity built momentum, it turned into dignity, which is their love for self. And that love for self did allow them to show up as a better wife and a better mom and also a better friend to themselves. But the spouse who was used to the power or the energetic dynamic of them a certain way would suddenly be threatened. So even if this woman who's losing weight and finding herself was a better, happier, more fulfilled version of herself, more healed version of herself, there's a worry and a fear that comes from the partner. Well, what if they start to see themselves so much that they leave me? Are they outgrowing me? And so if the partner's not also doing work and also healing themselves and also diving in, if they're numbing with alcohol and food themselves or porn or sex or work or fill it in, if they're numbing their pain and unwilling to look at it, it's really scary when the person next to you or someone in your life is healing. So I'm recognizing that. And I know, we just did that retreat. I'll go into that retreat. It was so good. It was so beautiful. And I think the most beautiful part about it for me, there were a couple beautiful things. One of the most empowering things for me was having the guts to speak on social media, online, here in this podcast a few different times, having the guts to speak about some ways of healing that I have experienced that completely threaten what we always knew, right? So like talking about psilocybin, which, is mushrooms, talking about ketamine, which, it's like, I think people associate those things with, like, especially ketamine. I've gotten a handful of comments, not a ton, but like, oh my gosh, that's how this person died. I can't believe you would do that. Well, yeah, it's like everything can be a drug when you use it improperly. But when you're using ketamine, one of my favorite podcasts about ketamine is, I talked about it I believe in the podcast with Molly, is there's an Andrew Huberman Labs podcast that actually talks about the benefits of ketamine in healing your brain and healing your body. So it is a medicine when used properly. And that is the biggest caveat. And my mind has been open to these ways of healing that, yes, if you have somehow are getting it at home and you're using it improperly, you're going to hurt yourself. Just like with food, if you're abusing food, you're going to hurt yourself. If you're abusing exercise, you're going to hurt yourself. If you're literally abusing anything, sex is a beautiful thing. If you're abusing it, you're going to hurt yourself. You're susceptible to STDs and all the things. Everything in life, I'm not going to say everything, so many things in life have the ability to either be medicine, food, or a drug, food. And so ketamine, having the guts to speak on something that has been such a beautiful part of my own healing process, that was big for me. That was really big for me because I feel like after Dave passed, and maybe even before, but really after Dave passed, I was like, I'm diving in. I'm diving into figuring me out. This life is scary. I don't even know parts of me. And so I went all in, and I think it's safe to say that there was definitely a disconnect between, especially on social media, who I was becoming and how I was still showing up online, still showing up as what I thought people needed me to be, still showing up, exercise and nutrition's number one. And it's great. It's important. but really not giving the world an insight, except for little bits here and there through this podcast, which is why I love it, because I felt like it's been my avenue to sharing my journey. But really not giving in much insight to the types of healing or how I've been healing on the deeper level. And so, I mean, but so much healing had been done. I'd witnessed so much healing in other people through ketamine assisted or medically assisted ketamine therapy, medically supervised ketamine assisted therapy. It's just been magic. I mean, I actually, I did my first session, April 2023, and I haven't done a ton of it, but I've done enough to really see some incredible benefits in physiologically, psychologically, emotionally. And then I've seen enough and guided enough people to it and heard enough to just see, you guys, the benefits are so huge. And after having many of you guys reach out to me, so many people, you guys, many of you here are in pain. You're in pain. You are suffering and you are fighting a silent battle. And many of you are listening, wishing you could reach out for help, but not even knowing where to start. I was there. I know what that feels like. And for me, it manifested in anxiety attacks and depression and not wanting to live. And that's not a life I want to live. You know, I think we all get to a point where we're like, okay, do I want to be here on this earth? If I do, something's got to change dramatically. And DM and email after email after DM after DM of just many women struggling with, and not even women. I've been having wonderful conversations with men who are in their own healing through similar modalities. But, you know, whether it's having many people affected by suicide in one way or another, which is why I had Melissa Methvin on my podcast. Great episode. Her husband had committed suicide, or just death of a child, death of a partner, death of a spouse, death in any way, divorce, which you guys, if you've been through it, if you're going through it, I have a friend recently that was just starting a divorce, and I was like, you don't even know what's about to hit you. It is just identity stripped from you, and what you thought was up is actually down and all around. And what the F? I'm not going to cuss on this podcast. I mean, I already did a couple times, but what the F? What the hell is actually happening? So that, or just, what trauma from sexual abuse. I mean, I've I've experienced everything I'm talking about. Everything. Every single everything has touched my life in some way, shape, or form. And I'm hearing these stories from you guys where it's touched you and you're in a place where you're stuck. I feel like we can all go for so long on adrenaline. And then there comes a point where you're like, I can't wake up tomorrow. I can't get out of bed. I got to figure out how to change. And I know what works. I know what works because I've experienced it. And so to be able to bring this medically supervised ketamine assisted therapy to 10 beautiful souls. Actually, there were 9 there. 9 beautiful souls in Scottsdale last month. It was quite magical. I had my friend Molly, who owns Arizona Wellness, and my friend Ashley, who helped put the thing together. We just had the most magical medical team who truly cares. We had a therapist there. We had a life coach. We had, it was so magic, you guys. And, of the group, the 9 women, I think this is important to hear. Of the 9 women, only one of those 9 had ever experienced ketamine before. And so there was a lot of fear and a lot of nerves, but also a lot of trust and a lot of readiness. And these 9 women walked in on a Thursday, not knowing each other. I could hear the apprehension. I could hear the hesitation. I could hear the fear. I could hear the doubt. Like, is this even going to work for me? I could hear the hopelessness in their lives. I could hear all of it. I could hear the resistance to connecting with the other women. I've done that before too. I've walked into group like that and been like, I am not going to connect with anyone here. None of these women are people I would ever seek out to be friends with in real life, or men, right? I'm not. And then you get into your healing and suddenly you are connected in the most beautiful way with these individuals from all walks of life. They've dealt with addiction and death and divorce and fill in the blank, anything. So saw Thursday, these women walk in and the first night's always a little, it was great. It was beautiful. There were tears, but it was tears of like, there was like fear. So like there were women that would just begin to speak and tears would come out. And these women were so controlled and so tight and so rigid in their lives. And they felt like they needed to control everything. And there was no surrender. And also when there's no surrender, there's no safety. When there's no safety, there's no joy and there's no play. And, day 2 is when we do our first round of ketamine. We open up with beautiful breath work and some movement, and we have some amazing workshops and different things that had been had the night before and some speakers. And then we open up and we go into this, I don't want to misrepresent it because it is physiologically ketamine assisted therapy is so good for your brain. It actually creates neuroplasticity. So it helps rewire the pathways in our brain. So the stories that we've told ourselves for years about who we are and what we need to do and how we need to, hold everything up and all this pressure that we put on ourselves, it's just not true. But we can't see it because we only know what we know. Like there are things in life that we know, like we know 2 + 2 is 4. There are things in life that we know that we don't know. Like I never took calculus, so I don't know calculus. I also don't know how to run a restaurant because I've never done it, right? And then there are things in life that we don't know. And those things in life that we don't know, those are our blind spots. Those are the things, and they're endless, they're limitless. There are so many things that we don't know. And when we can become aware of what our blind spots are, when we can become open to learning something new and seeing what might exist that our brain can't even conceptualize, because we can only conceptualize at the level with which we have experience in or we've seen. But there's so much that everyone listening has never seen before. Closed-minded people have a really hard time with this, but if we can open our minds and be open to allowing our blind spots to be seen or called out and start to learn some of these things that we didn't even know that we didn't know, that is when our world opens up for us. And so to see these women go into treatment and just to have, there were tears and there were laughs and joy and smile. There was peace for people that never felt peace. For a woman that felt like she had to control and keep tight, her intention was joy, and she was laughing and just smiling and crying, and she felt joy. There were some of the women have visions. So in addition to whatever's happening physiologically in her brain, in their brains, and like the rewiring that's actually scientifically taking place, there were women that had these wonderful visions, almost dreamlike. It's a dissociative. So these visions and things where lessons were coming up to them that they needed, that they didn't even know that they needed. Maybe it's a visit from someone in their past that like was sharing something that, they needed to know. But there were just so many wonderful things, and just the connection of the group and the emotions that were so stuck in these women that were finally safe to come out. I mean, I have full body chills speaking about this. A container where safety exists, where everything you thought you needed to be in the real world is left behind. And you actually get to show up with just who you are, not as a mom, not as a wife, not as a teacher. You literally, in all of your rawness and your most vulnerable identity, you just get to be. And in that room, that house, this group who's now on text message and Zooms, you're loved, and you are so, even more than loved, you are seen and you are appreciated. And in that space of being seen and loved and appreciated and able to be real, in that space of being real and authentic. Sorry, my car just shut off. You can actually start to heal. Like the real healing can happen. I heard women in these groups talking about, and I don't even want to say the word confessing because that's such a religious undertone. Sharing so vulnerably stories of abuse or mistakes they thought they had made, decisions they had made in their life that they had never told a soul. And just the number of times I heard someone say, "I've never told anyone this, but this happened to me. I was a victim of it." And just seeing the way it was like such a visible shift in who these women were over the course of the week versus who they walked in as. Just seeing the weight being lifted off of their chests, off of their shoulders, and this dimness when they walked in and this fear. They were so bright and so happy. And like you guys, yes, there was healing. And there was so much, I almost said the F word, so much funny shit. It was we were like just a bunch of teenage girls. I wouldn't say that because as a teenager, I didn't make many great decisions. We were we were so free. We were so free to be fun and funny and say exactly what was on our minds. And it felt so, it was unique. It was such a unique, beautiful experience. There were tears on the last day. So we did 2 days of ketamine. And when I say we, I did not, the group of women. So my team and we were there to hold space and process. And it was just we did group processing. We did individual processing. It was unreal. Now, if you've been a part of any of my past retreats, you know that they've always been great. So the fun element, I don't want to say I bring the fun. My people bring the fun. We never have a shortage of fun. We never have a shortage of tears and breakthroughs and just love and acceptance. That's how all of them have been. All of them. But there was something so uniquely different about this one compared to any of the other ones I'd experienced. And I think if I could put my finger on it, I would say healing actually happened. So I think at most retreats, you walk in and you become aware and you have fun and you walk out with tools and a whole new perception, maybe. This or new ideas. Your mind has been opened. This was like a shift in energy. This was like these women that walked out the door on the final day will never, ever, ever, ever be the same as they were when they walked in the door. Ever. They'll never. You cannot unsee the magic that now you've been shown. You just can't unsee it. And it's been really awesome. I've stayed connected with them. We did a group integration call. I know they're very tight with each other, and just hearing how they view life different. It's almost like they walked out of, I guess a way that I could explain that. I've seen it before. You walk out with a different lens. And so it's almost like you're walking through the world, seeing a tree for the first time, because you never saw a tree with the lens that you have on. You're seeing an interaction with your kids for the first time that maybe they've had a million times, because you never were able to see it from with the lens that you previously had on. You have an entirely new lens. These women are just broken open. And life doesn't stop showing up. And that was one of the things we talked about on our last call. Life doesn't stop showing up. It keeps showing up. And actually, sometimes when it shows up, for a while, it's easier. And then after a little while, it's like with transformation. When life shows up, even though you know how to lose the weight now, Um, it starts to feel harder because you now have this elevated, expanded place of knowing to compare the hard times to, but also your tools are that much greater. And so it's just really awesome to see these women supporting each other. It's awesome to hear, like, well, on our integration call, one of the girls is like, the biggest thing is I don't give two fucks now. Sorry, there I just had there's a cuss word. But she's like, it's great. All these things, all these people that I was giving my energy to, I'm done. I only have so much energy. And she had this look on her face. It was so cute. That was like, I don't give two fucks. It was so cute. And she's like, I feel like I'm able to make decisions that are in the best interest of my life now, instead of always trying to make the decisions that that person who doesn't even walk my shoes thinks is best for my life. She said, there's no peace. There's only chaos in that. Another one of the women was talking about how much more peaceful she's been with her kids, how she's been able to see things so differently, and how she's been able to hear her husband so differently and actually see some of the things that he was saying where before there was such a closed off feeling. Another girl is grieving and grieving ways of being as a mom that she held so much guilt and shame for, and she's releasing it. There's so much releasing happening, you guys. Such an energetic shift. I love it. Okay, this podcast is a little longer than I expected. I didn't even go into health. I didn't even go into family. um, but we are doing another retreat in October. We actually were going to do one in August, and I think this is going to be August before this podcast comes out. But I who am I kidding? I have one kid who's leaving to Thailand. We'll talk about that in the next one. I have another kid, two kids going into school, one starting high school. We're not doing a retreat in August, but we are doing October 16th through 19th. By the time this podcast comes out, I don't know how many spots will be left, but we do have 10 spots open for that. So if it is something you are interested in, you can always DM me. You can go to rewireexperience.com. So REWIRE, and then another E for experience. EXPERIENCE.com, and fill out there's a jot form there. You can click the button, fill it out. And then we'll do a discovery call with you so you can learn more about it. Yeah, it was really great. Really great. We'll keep posting testimonials because I love the unanimous feedback was, while financially it feels like an investment, what you get out of it. A few of them were like, you can't, like, how do you, like, I wish I would have known what I was getting because it's so much more. It's so much more. And it is. So I know that the right people will find the next retreat. And this is like a passion project for me. It's something that I love that I'm finally able to take some of my own modalities of healing that I've been experiencing and pass them along and share and just see the changes, the evolution, the transformation, the breakthroughs, the breaking open. I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for Molly, who actually came to me with the idea. I'm grateful for Ashley to making it happen. I'm grateful for the women, all of them who showed up so courageously and so bravely and so raw and so open. And I'm grateful for all of the people who end up finding it next. I'm grateful for the women who are coming in October that I'll definitely be healing alongside. Okay, you guys, I think that's going to wrap up today's update. I don't even remember what I talked about. That's what's fun about these. Just turn on the mic and go. Upcoming, I will have one on health. We'll talk about my health journey. I'll also have one about my family because I'm experiencing some things that I'd love to share and also hear from you on. All right. I love you all. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk soon.